Welcome to Goldboys Live, presented by Pickett Sports. Sleeper picks, breaking down the MLB card. We will get to some NFL. I guess we have some Kyrie news. Even when we have day baseball, we get a rain delay, so we have no games going on, but we'll break all of it down. Brad, Josh, Brian, boys, what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, we always make the joke about day baseball, this and that. Even right now with MLB, the day games are just for travel days. It's even like planned day games. They're just a way to get in and out of different cities. So it's a little annoying.
Yeah, I'm surprised with this weather thing going on. I hope it's not going to mess up the hot dog eating contest. Like we only have a few days till that. Like we need to make sure the America's sport is preserved and it is played outside on the 4th of July.
Are there rainouts for there? What's the rain policy for 4th of July? I bet the under last year, and I gave out the under because he was in a cast and he couldn't eat that quickly, and then the guy tried to attack him, which really helped my bet. What's the rain policy?
Yeah,
I feel like rain would slow him down.
I don't know what the rain policy is. I think that we need do some research on that.
Yeah.
I just love how much Brad loves the 4th of July. I'm super into it. My guy loves it.
Just wait for the pictures, man. I got the whole outfit. Like everything's red, white, and blue. I'm excited.
Let's go.
All right, we'll get to the day baseball. I guess the newsiest thing, it just came down in the last 10 minutes. Kyrie Irving is meeting with the Suns. Do we buy this? I think they can only offer him the minimum. Is he really crazy enough to just pass up the money? Is this a leverage play? That's kind of where I lean. Where are you guys at with this, Brad? You can go first.
Well, first Kyrie was playing football in Los Angeles, and everyone's like, oh, Kyrie's going to go to the Lakers. You guys see where he's playing football. Then he's saying he's meeting with the Suns. I just think he's going to do this little world tour and just take the biggest bag that he can find. Like, because he said, and although he said this multiple times, but he said that wherever he goes, he hopes that's where he goes for the rest of the season. This man doesn't rest his career. This man doesn't want to stay in Phoenix for the rest of his career.
Not a bad place to live. Arizona's a nice place to live. I don't believe he's ever going to stay anywhere, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. But the fun part of the story is like it's Kyrie, so who knows? Like he could just be crazy enough to take the minimum and play on the Suns. Like, what will he do next? I'm not going to try to predict it. I don't know if taking the meeting is a way to like just display his legitimate interest in talking to other teams. I don't know. I don't know. He has no connection that I understand to anybody like in that organization with the ownership board.
Well, KD, but yeah.
Yeah. Is KD down for that again? I don't know, but my guess would be like that's not what happens. I as far as staying in Dallas, it's one of those situations that kind of seems like that would make the most sense. But once again, like literally flip a coin with what he's deciding, what he could decide.
Yeah, if anyone's going to take the minimum just to kind of make a funny headline, I feel like it'd be Kyrie Irving just to do it. I don't know, but I don't really buy into it. I don't think. I think he's got too much leverage with some other teams too. Where like, is it really? Do you really want to play fourth or third fiddle at the minimum on the Suns? It doesn't seem like his MO.
And KD, I mean, he's constantly craving approval. And he is one of the all-time greats, but if he retires, like if he won a ring with Kyrie on that team again, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but like if all of his rings are joining a stacked Golden State team and then a Kyrie, Beal, Booker, KD team, it'd be like, dude, come on. It's a little corny.
Does that team win the NBA finals though?
I mean, they're probably
that would be like the most
great question.
That'd be like the weirdest starting five of all time. That's like when you're on playing like 2K and you turn off trades. Like if you have a starting lineup that's like Beal, Booker, Kyrie, KD, and like 8 and at 5, where they could like survive them all. It'd just be such a weird lineup. And then
they're probably co-favorites with Phoenix, right? If they got him just as a thought exercise.
Wait, who did you guys say that? Where's he going in this scenario?
Phoenix.
Right. So they're favorites along with Denver. You mean?
Co-favorites,
yeah. You said co-favorites with Phoenix, but yeah. So okay, yes,
yeah,
because that's what people want to. But like, I think a lot of nerds would be like, "Well, who's playing defense?" And then they'd also say, "Well, if KD has to play defense."
That was a really good impression of like gambling Twitter or like sports. Like who will play defense? Like
right. And but it's a legitimate question because like if KD has to be the one to be your like secondary or primary rim protector, he's going down again. I think like he's getting hurt again. If that's what you're expecting of him is like 2 blocks, like when he was on the Warriors. If you want him to play that level of defense for you, I don't think he's playing a whole season like that. So
one thing is, if you had all those guys, you could really load manage and still be pretty good. Where it's like one night this guy sits, and the other guy.
You could load manage the finals with that lineup.
Yeah, that's a good, team. It'd be fun. I don't know if I'm rooting for it, but it would be fun. I don't know that's going to happen, but something to keep an eye on. Again, we got a decent baseball card. We had a perfect game last night. Most people were probably asleep. It was against the A's. It was a guy nobody wants to root for. We did get a perfect game, so I don't know. Did anyone stay up to watch it?
I was watching it when I was out, but I think it was 8 earned runs the start before, and then just
10. I think it was 10. I don't know.
If I think it might have been 8 or 10. I forget if they were earned or not, but the point is that's why I think baseball is one of the funniest / most beautiful games of all time. That is like one of the biggest feats you could ever accomplish in your entire like anything.
Yeah.
To that
and
point,
he gave up a ton of runs. I watched it, and he gave a ton of runs the game before. What was funny about that game was like at the top of the ninth, it felt like the Yankees were like icing him, just like he's sitting there like with his little sweater on. He's not talking to anyone. Like, his heart's got to be pounding out of his chest.
He was
they just keep scoring runs and getting people on base.
Yeah, and what's hilarious too is in terms of like how bad he was coming into this, he was owned in like it was like 85-84% of leagues in Yahoo before last week, and then he got dropped right before that perfect game down to 67% owned in Yahoo. So like 20% of the people dropped him and were just like, what the hell just happened? He gave 15 runs and then he gives up 0 hits.
Might have been one bad start away from going back to the bullpen. I mean, you don't get to give up 8 runs, 10 runs, 6 runs. Like if you had another blow up start, that might have been it. I mean, I don't know, but
credit to the Yankees too, because there's nothing better than being in that situation, being up 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 runs, because sometimes having that ability just to come after guys and pitch when you're like watching that game, he was able just to kind of challenge guys, which is big.
Yeah.
You see some of these things where it's like 1-0 and you have no hitter going and you have like double reason to be scared of every pitch you throw.
Yeah, and then that third baseman saved that saved it in the last inning. Like that sounded like a well-struck ball that was going to get through. I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
And it was great.
There's
6 pitches in the ninth too. He just cruised through the ninth.
If there's one thing I would never want to be is I always feel bad for the people in the situation that has to field the ground ball for the final out. It's like even the most routine ball hits you, it's coming to you. You're like fuck.
Did you see how much time they took? They were like, okay, breathe, throw.
Yeah.
That's one thing, a no hitter. You boot a ball, it doesn't screw up the no hitter, but a perfect game, man, you screwed up the perfect game. Yeah, I get nervous. Yeah, I get anxious for the people involved.
I didn't breathe the whole bottom of the ninth. I was glad it was over quick. I was like,
yeah, we've gotten a bunch of no hitters in recent years because all these guys throw 100 miles an hour with nasty breaking stuff. But it's been a while. I didn't realize it'd been 11 years since a perfect game. I feel like it was more common than that. But still really
Anibal Sanchez got robbed in between there too by first base coach or first base ump there.
I don't remember that. Anibal Sanchez
on the Tigers. Yeah, he had.
Oh no, that was Galarraga. That was 2010.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Still the worst thing in MLB history in my mind. Like that was still like the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Although it's almost a cooler story to be like, look, a lot of people have thrown perfect games. You can tell that story forever. I threw a perfect game, and he called like you almost become more.
He became way more famous. Yeah,
right. Like we wouldn't have just mentioned his name right now.
Yeah, I called him Anibal Sanchez. So
right.
he's so memorable that Josh totally forgot who it was.
With a lefty pitcher from like 6 years later.
That guy was out by a mile too. He was clearly out in that game.
Yeah.
Best bets for today, Brian. You want to start? What do you got?
Yeah, I'm on the show. I think last time I faded this offense was on the show, but now I'm backing their offense. I am taking Zach Greinke over 2.5 earned runs. Guardians offense is a offense that I kind of make fun of a lot and I fade a lot, but they're hitting the ball well. They're hitting 292 against righties in June. Usually Kauffman's is a stadium or a park that I just don't like to back offense in, but it's like almost 100 degrees and super humid there. So I think it kind of cancels out the deep outfield where I think there's going to be some hard hit balls. And Greinke, dude, he's like, 68 years old now. He's a guy that relies on fastball, four-seam fastball and curveball. And that's 2 pitches that the Guardians hit really well. A lot of these teams that don't strike out, like the Guardians and like the Nationals, some of these other teams, if you rely on those 2 pitches, they're so easy to figure out that I think they're going to get to them. And I also think that the bullpen is so taxed after yesterday with the Royals that he usually is like 5 innings and then he's out. I think there's a chance that they might try to stretch him out into the 6th if they need to, which would be a horrible recipe for a guy like Greinke.
I like Cleveland in that game too. By the way, that minus 140 or so on the money line, it looks a little cheap.
Yeah, I might take that as well. I was also looking at the double result too because the Royals bullpen's bad and Greinke's been horrible. I think they put up runs.
How are y'all feeling about Mr. Bieber though?
Dude,
the
Bieber,
ghost of Shane Bieber, honestly, dude.
Honestly, I know like we have new rules and this and that. It's like, oh, it's nice to have a like faster game, this and this. But man, some of my favorite pitchers I loved last year are just ass now. Like I'm not saying it's all because of that, but there's a lot of guys.
What about the sticky stuff? Like, did they check Vermont last night? By the way, I don't think they did one check on him.
I don't know. That was the
I think they always do the checks. It's pretty.
Sometimes
I notice sometimes after the innings, the guys are always like I usually look for, not always look for, but I tend to notice that. I'd be surprised if, especially a guy who's been caught before.
Right.
I'd be surprised if he was dumb enough to do it again for like the 9th time, and I'd be surprised if they weren't checking him. Like he's obviously someone you're going to be looking at.
Bieber might be struggling because of that too, but no, I would agree in terms of fading Mr. Greinke, who's super old, but. By the way, Brad apologizes. His power went out. Apparently, he just lost everything.
Yeah, I just was gonna kind of let him be. I noticed he just dropped out there, and I was just kind of rolling with it.
It's all good, but
no problem. We are gonna dock his pay, but other than that,
no, we
you guys get paid.
Anyway, well, with all these great bets, like this one here, where we get to fade Adam Wainwright in a great situation. Like, we should probably talk about that for 1 second. Where we look at Houston. I mean, their offense has been awesome in the last couple of weeks, like super awesome. Really, Altuve came back, and now we're talking about like Bregman and Kyle Tucker, both improving a ton since Altuve did come back. They're both hitting above 300 in their last like 10 games. 3 homers combined, 15 ribbies, like a bunch of doubles. They're just ripping the ball, and Altuve's got a bunch of runs as well as a result. And then just really quickly looking at, by the way, the bet is, and actually tell me what you guys think. Over 2.5 first 5 for Houston to fade Wainwright. That's minus 130 on DraftKings. Or Houston money line first 5 minus 135.
I will say I like the idea of money line bets for first 5 because it gives you the option for pushes. That's
I totally agree. I don't want to sit there and sweat out a 1-1 game in the 8th, or God forbid it goes to the fucking extra innings where it's just such a. I always feel like I'm going to lose every extra inning game on the money line. Always, whether home team, road team. What's that?
Plus,
you're a true bettor.
Yes.
Yeah. Plus, it's one of those things too where how many times do you really want to back a guy or fade a guy, and they pitch wonderful for the first 5-6 innings, then the bullpen kind of ruins it. So I like the first 5 angles because it depends. I mean, the Cardinals' offense is so bipolar that they can be shut down at any point. But honestly, if I were you and you were in between it, what I've been doing a lot for MLB this year is I just kind of split it. Rather than doing a full unit on one, I'll do half a unit on both, and they should correlate where if you win one, they put up 3 or 4 runs, you'd think they could win the money line, but not necessarily.
Or if you're dead wrong on your cap, you lose them both. I was like that with Davies last night where I faded him. I did sort of the same thing. I took first half, I took full game, and I had the cap wrong. Like I thought they'd hammer Davies. He shut him out 7 innings, no runs, but then they got 3 in the 9th, 2 of them with 2 outs. So yeah, it's always sort of a conundrum of like not just what to bet, but how to attack the bet. And I think Brian's right. You just split it up a little.
Well, and it's funny, just as a disclaimer too, because I was looking at under 3.5 strikeouts for Wainwright, who has gotten under 4 in a lot of games. Let's put it that way, like 9 of 11. He didn't get a K when he was getting blown up in London recently, and when he gave up 7 runs and 11 hits. So, there's plenty of reason to like that, but that's what I got burned with yesterday. We called Wentz getting rocked, and he gave up 4 in the first inning.
Yeah, I'm done with strikeout props.
But they kept him in for 4.2 innings or whatever. Instead of taking him out, he got the last K before he got shelled again. And it was just like, why fading a pitcher is much better with these first 5 inning bets, right? The starter than
I think one mistake I know I'm making, I think probably we have to look at a little more when we're betting these K props, either over or under. How much have they used the bullpen the days before? Like if you really use the bullpen a lot the last couple of days, you know what, you might have a tendency to give the pitcher a little more rope, even if he's, which is not pitching well like Wentz last night. And I don't know the bullpen situation, but that is something to factor with. Hey, how much did they use the bullpen the night before? They might just, hey, we'll punt on this game. We're going to leave this guy in for 5-6 innings regardless, just because we've used our bullpen so much.
Which is baseball. I know. Baseball is like that. Like give me another thing that I have to check on when I'm looking at baseball besides the pitcher matchup and the lineup and all that. It's like playing golf, where it's like just remember these 9,200 things while you're swinging, and you'll have a good swing. Like
huge factor though, because a lot of these guys guys like Wentz could have gotten pulled last night. It was like 6 runs were on the board. They had 1st and 30, just giving up a hit. And I was watching on my phone and it said mound visit. And when you bet under props or under whatever, and you see the mound visit and there's a lot of runs, you're like, all right, you expect to see that new name in there and you're all excited. But they left him in. You got the other K. So it is a big part of it. And again, it's more work to do. But
good call.
When you lose one, you should win. It makes you realize that, hey, it's probably worth it to put in the extra work and just take an eye, keep an eye on how they've used the bullpen recently.
Yeah, and I'm a guy that, in baseball, I've been 2 years in. This is my 3rd year actually like betting on baseball full time, and I was always strikeouts. I completely gave up on strikeout props. I am so into team totals and fading and backing pitchers in those run regards rather than strikeouts now, just because, what was it? Clayton Kershaw shoved the other day 2 strikeouts. I know it's Coors, but it's just one of those things where I think more than ever, it's been more frustrating to try to figure out the strikeout market. So I just moved off it, and I'm actually really enjoying the team totals and this and that.
Yeah, it's a great call. It's kind of like 3-pointers in the NBA where you're just like, yo, like this guy's going to get points. He can do it in a variety of ways. Why worry if he's going to,
we're on like Survivor right now. We're like on Survivor. It's like we're slowly dropping like flies.
It's been a war zone on here the whole time.
I'm a little worried. I was going to say, Josh, is that I was just happy that on the show yesterday when I texted you as well about fading Wentz and the Orioles team total. I'm so glad I picked Wentz over Corbin because I was between the two of them to be the not to record a win. And then as soon as I saw that game 3-0 the first, my first thought was, good thing I went with Wentz because if I faded Corbin on the day he put 7 up scoreless, I would have been so upset. But Wentz did not make us sweat anything for not to record a win or for the team total for the Rangers.
And that Orioles game did not make us sweat at all. There was 10 runs in 2 innings.
Well, I think I don't know if you texted me or that was in the group chat, but that's what I was saying. At first, I was like, man, I should have just done the total because the Reds put up 3 runs in the first, and in the bottom half, the Orioles put up like 4. 5. And I was like, and I was thinking, oh, never mind, because I was thinking the
Reds won that game, right?
Yeah, Reds won.
It was 11-7. And
they had 1st and 3rd, nobody out. Like the Reds blew a lead, then they had 1st and 3rd in the 9th, top of the 9th, nobody out, and they didn't get a run home. Like, all right, they're going to lose it in the 9th. But they had a big top of the 10th, and they won the game.
And
should we do fewest wins market NFL?
What? Yeah, for sure. Did you have a MLB play for the day?
Oh yeah, I was going to do Houston, but you were smart, and hopefully you were smart and did one. Let me come up with one here. It's not a great board here. Padres and Pirates, I think, is about to start. Texas, Detroit. I want to be part of that game.
Some of these travel days, it's like I try to say that in my channel too, in Goldboys, is that Thursdays is one of those days where it's okay to have 1 or 2 bets because man, these travel days can get so weird in the MLB because there's nothing worse. Even this Granky bet, I waited to lineups because nothing worse than taking the lineup and then you see it and they're resting like 3 of the biggest bats and you're like, shit.
Plus, there's a human element. The players have somewhere to go. They want to get out of there early. The umps have somewhere to go. Remember, the umps, they don't just stay there. The umps are traveling somewhere. So there's a human nature. Hey, ball like 50-50, we'll call it a strike. 50-50, we'll call it an out. Of course, there's replay now, but when everyone wants to get out of there, I don't want any part of the over. So that is something to keep in mind too. I'll go with the Angels. I'll fade Lance Lynn. A lot of walks, a lot of homers. He's had some randomly good strikeout numbers, but I'll play the full game on the Angels. White Sox missing some pieces in the bullpen too with Crochet. I think is still out. Hendricks is still out. So Angels minus. And again, shop around. If you can find a book, and not a lot of books have it, but if you can find the dime lines on baseball, it really saves you a lot of juice throughout the year. But right in the minus 130, 135 range, I'll take the Angels for my play.
Got it. Yeah, I like that. I mean, the White Sox had a rare offensive outburst last night. When they shelled him. I don't think you want to bank on that happening 2 days in a row with one of the worst offenses in the league. So yeah, I mean, whatever Lance Lynn has left and whatever he is this year, maybe another guy with the sticky stuff problem, but I think it's a good fade. So let's do NFL stuff though, while you figure out your earpiece.
Yeah, he's having some trouble. First Brad left, and then Will left for a little bit, and now I don't even know if Will can hear us. It's his
earpiece just keeps coming in and out. I'm having some issues with the earpiece where the sound is like faint and sometimes it falls out. So
which is funny because that's why I just do these like cheap like $2 headphones because I used to have an earpiece like that and I didn't like it. It didn't feel I didn't like how it felt. So I just go with this in my mic.
Down the tech. Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's the flap that becomes inverted, so the sound becomes really faint, which nobody is interested in, nobody cares about right now.
Talk louder.
Something people might care about NFL, and this is what's fun about DraftKings and these books. Now that it's legal, there's so many different ways to bet this stuff. You can bet basically who's going to have the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. They call it fewest wins. I'll just read the odds at DraftKings and we'll go around the horn here and we'll all come up with a bet, or you guys will each give a bet. We'll all give a bet. Cardinals, obviously the favorite, 2-1. They're going to be god awful. Texans 8-1. So there's a big gap between Houston and Arizona. 2-1 for Arizona, 8-1 for Houston, 9-1 for Tampa, 10-1 for the Rams. Commanders are also 10-1. The Raiders are 12-1. The Colts, who are getting guys suspended left and right, are 12-1. Titans 14-1. Patriots 15-1. Giants 22-1. Packers 22-1. Panthers 22-1. Bears 25-1. Broncos 40-1. Minnesota's 55-1 unless Cousins got hurt. I guess we could stop there unless you guys have an inkling about something that's longer. You guys get the idea. Josh, we'll start with you. Your best bet for fewest wins is?
My best bet for fewest wins is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think if it doesn't happen on defense for them, I mean, I understand what they have in the wideout core there. But the Kyle Trask not being able to be good enough, I don't believe in Baker Mayfield. So the 9-1 that you get there on DraftKings, I could also see the Rams as the team that is most likely to fold at 10-1. But in short, like there still are weapons despite how many they lost on the Rams on defense. And so I think there's still enough there to like keep them in games. If Stafford plays 10, it was between those two teams. So if Stafford does play 10, then, a 10 to 11 games, I think they can probably win like 4 of those. In which case, for the Bucs, I don't know that they're going to be in a position where their quarterback is going to drive them down and win them a game at any point, regardless of how good their defense may or may not be, especially just really up front in the back, the defensive backfield, which is probably the best in the league, but I don't know that that's going to be good enough to be able to get points up and everything. So, I mean, the Cardinals are an easy bet at 2-1 if you want to make it. We're all just making fun of them. I think the Texans are an awful bet at 8-1 just to finish it out because I do believe in them a bit more and what we're going to see from them as a couple guys round into form. So there was nothing else there. The Colts at 12-1 probably would be an even better pick, to be honest, as I'm just naming every team. But I'm going to say the Bucs, and probably my second favorite would be the Colts there.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go. Okay, go ahead, Brian.
No, I was gonna say I was looking at all the odds too. I was just kind of like listening to what Josh was saying, but I'll still be boring. I don't like the value, but I still think 2-1 for the Cardinals. This Cardinals team, like I'm so down on Gannon too as a Philadelphia guy. I don't think he's that like he doesn't make adjustments well. They just lost their only player that people will buy tickets to go see. I just feel like this team is just in such a bad spot that if you get dead heat with them at 2-1, I just don't see anybody else being worse.
Yeah, I think the Cardinals is a good bet. They might lose Budda Baker as well. He's asking for more money, and they're at a crossroads if they're going to pay him or let him ride. What I think is going to be an interesting bet, if you guys want one that is, more better odds, the Las Vegas Raiders. Raiders, I think they are 12-1.
I like that.
Listen, they are Jimmy G injury away. Josh Jacobs might not play this season or at least hold out for some time. They were 6 and they only had 6 wins last season. I don't see them getting any better.
Brutal division.
Brutal division. Adams could be headed out of there. Like if they start like 0-5, Adams might just be like, listen, I don't want to play this because he's not going to be getting the type of service.
McDaniels could be on the hot seat. You could, I totally agree. Plus, with all these teams, you get off to a bad start. You got Caleb Williams looking at you next year. You got Drake May. You could say, you know what? There's no point winning 4 or 5. Now, NFL teams don't typically think like this. We saw Houston win a game for no reason at the end of the year, but you got to at least give yourself a chance at Caleb Williams.
Was handing it to the Bears. That's why they won that game.
Still one of the funniest things of all time. That was hilarious. The 4th and 20, it was awful.
It's a good lesson though. These players don't care about the pick. These players half of them are going to be on a new team the next year. Yeah. The other half, it's like, you know what? You go out there, you can't play football to lose. You literally get hurt or killed. Like you're going to go out there and you're going to play to win. You have to tank. You have to put yourself in position to lose. You have to bench all your guys. You have to do it from the top down, and you can't keep the coach that thinks he's gone. Like the coach is going to try to win. It has to be a coordinated effort. That is an example of like NBA teams tank. Football teams don't tank though.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be the Colts. I think Anthony Richardson's going to be just good enough. Jonathan Taylor's back. Their defensive line is good. Secondary should be more healthy. And I'm not just betting. I'm not betting 2-1, even though it could be it's probably the best bet for the Cardinals. I just don't want to bet 2-1 there.
I am going to go 25-1. The Chicago Bears. They got a piece of this last year. They won 3 games. They have all sorts of issues on defense. They have all sorts of issues on the offensive line. And they have a quarterback who loves to get hit. He has taken 91 sacks. All he does is run. He runs. If he gets hurt, I think PJ Walker is the backup. How's that going to go? I know it's not a great conference. It's not a great division, but hey, could Fields get hurt and you win 3 or 4 games again and you at least get half of this bet? And look, at 25-1, if there's going to be a dead heat, Arizona at 2-1, I don't really want a dead heat, although whatever, it's fine. But at 12-1, at 25-1, even if you get a dead heat and you tie, you get 12.5-1. I think the Bears, I don't understand this love for the Bears. People pick them to win the division. Their win total 7.5. They won 3 last year. It's going from 3 to 8 in the NFL. It's really, really difficult. I'm going to take a shot here. 25-1, the Bears.
I like it.
Don't hate it.
I'm sure Quan would love that bet. Big
Bears fan.
Yeah, he's big into this fan.
Yeah, I think this bet is really looking at like how does it fall apart for whomever it falls apart for even more, right? Like it's not just like who's bad. There's a lack of talent among like 4 or 5 teams that's like so spread out. They're so thin in certain key positions. That's why I kind of like thinking about certain teams like the Colts or the Bucks, where like they're very good in a very centralized specific area of the game. But not in sort of all the other little areas. But like once it comes down to it, then it's like which stars do you see falling out for reasons like lack of, issues within the team, which coach is like going to basically just be like, F it, what am I doing here? And who gets fired before the season is even up, right? Like all those things are just playing out the scenario of who's not going to look the same by like week 8 or 9 that they did when they started the season.
Plus, it gives you an idea of teams to bet against. Like Vegas, when you look at the power rankings, these teams, except for Arizona, they're all bunched up. Like you don't see a lot of big lines in week 1. Like all these games are lined. I think if you go through, and DraftKings has the line for all 18 weeks, you don't see any, I don't think, double-digit spreads. These are all like a touchdown or less. These are all tight lines. Yeah. If you find the team that's overvalued at the bottom, if you just find the team to bet against, hey, I think the Rams are going to be off. I think the Bucks are going to be off. But you could find the team that, you could find it's like they say at the poker table. You got to find the
sucker.
Find the guy to pick on. Find the mark. Right. And I think that's a good way to look at it too. Anybody else? I know we each gave a bet. Anybody else you guys were thinking about? You want to nominate?
No, not for me.
That's a great call. What you're saying, Will, real quick. It's just like if there's because they're going to keep these lines to like a touchdown or less, right? And like you're not going to see many like -9, 9.5.
Yeah.
For these early lines of like week 16 when it's like even when it's like Cardinals versus like I don't know Vikings or Steelers or even a better team like Chargers or something like that. It's like you're still not going to get them at -9. So if they're at like under a touchdown and you're like by the time we get to them playing in that week, they're going to be a double-digit favorite, then maybe you just hit them there, right?
So nobody else comes to mind for you guys? Nothing else you want to throw out?
Do you have another one?
I don't know. I'd like a little more. Patriots at 15-1, though. Is it possible they're that bad? Or their defense is too good?
It's so good.
I think their defense is, their defense should be. What we say about Richardson? He's like, he's just good enough. I feel like that's where the Patriots are. Like, they're just good enough to not be.
They're just well coached enough.
Yeah, I agree.
They got
we're sure Richardson's going to be the quarterback. It's not going to be Minshew week 1.
I mean, I've done a ton of reading, and they're pretty set on getting Richardson out there in week 1.
Who would you feel more comfortable fading the Colts?
Oh, Richardson.
Who would I feel? Richardson for sure.
Yeah.
I hope Richardson's out there not only for my season long bet, but like as like. You don't want Gardner Minshew to be good. It's going to stunt Richardson's development. Like if Gardner Minshew is good for an entire year, like he's not learning under Minshew. Like it's not like Minshew's this guy you're learning all this.
But they could go the way of when Kurt Warner and Eli Manning were battling for the job. Kurt Warner played like the first 6 games
halfway through. That's usually
2. Yeah. And then they brought Eli in, missed the playoffs, but they brought Eli in, and you could do it that way. I still wish they would have kept Kurt, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, but like you're like, come on, you say Kurt Warner, we're talking about Gardner Minshew.
Yeah.
By the way, that Underdog movie
who has
is
better mustache? What are you talking about here?
That Underdog movie is a very good movie. Like I was shocked to see how good it was. I didn't think it was gonna be good.
Damn, a plug for his movie. That's crazy. No, I don't know where else. I think they've got kind of like the bottom 6-ish team. Like, I mean, what about the Titans? Like,
I thought of them too.
14-1.
They start out bad. They start out 1-4, and they say, "Screw it, we'll go to Will Levis," and Will Levis isn't ready. They just take their lumps for you. My only concern, Vrabel's a competitive coach.
Yeah,
I don't hate it. Again,
That's
is that
true.
enough for me to bet? Probably not, but that's certainly a candidate.
Yeah.
Also sucks they have to play the Texans twice too. If you're
Right.
trying,
That's a good point. You figure
Yeah.
they'll split with each other or something. Yeah, it's a good point. And plus, the Colts aren't great. Like I agree.
Yeah, their division's so soft. That's the only worry
true.
with
That's the only
that.
problem,
They
yeah.
might get like free 3 or 4
That's a really
wins.
good point,
Like, where'd those wins come from?
Yeah, it's like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
I mean, how about just from a value play? Atlanta 70-1. I mean, are we really sure about Ritter? I know they got like nice fantasy players with Pitts and Bijan Robinson, but I don't know. Atlanta at 70-1. That just seems like a little high. Again, I don't think they're gonna have the first pick, but 70-1.
I'm kind of riding with Atlanta this season. I'm gonna talk about them in our next segment.
Everyone loves Atlanta. I don't know.
Everyone
I don't know
loves
about
Atlanta.
Ritter.
Yeah, I'm scared of Ritter, but listen, they're going to run the ball so effectively. Their offensive line's good enough to continue to do what they did last season. They're going to win enough games.
Yeah.
Do you think Ritter? What do we think Ritter's going to be like in comparison to a Mariota too? Like it's going to be so weird.
I don't know. It was hard to see it last year because Mariota could throw 8 interceptions, and they were so dead set on not putting Ritter in. It was crazy.
It was wild.
And they didn't let Mariota throw, or maybe he didn't want to throw to anywhere outside the number. So like once Kyle Pitts was done and just like underwhelming and then injured, it was like they weren't throwing to Drake London at all. I think Ritter's actually more likely to throw outside the numbers with a stronger arm, a bit more accurate than Mariota, and then actually might not be as fast as Mariota at his peak, but like still equally mobile.
I think we're going to see plenty of Taylor Heineke at some point.
Why?
Yeah,
you think he's hurt?
You think? I don't think he's going to make. I don't think Ritter's going to make it through the whole season as the star. I just don't think he's good. I mean,
I don't think he's good either.
I wasn't impressed with him in college. I remember he played.
Heineke can ball too. Like he's in a challenge.
That's a top 2 or 3 backup easily.
Yeah. Heineke just has one of those things where he just has that like competitive nature with him. Yes. He's always gonna have a job. I feel like because of that.
He's overqualified to be a backup. He's underqualified to be a starter. Like if he's your starter, you want somebody better. But he's a great backup. I remember the college game, the bowl game. You'll remember this, Brad, against Bama. Ritter was terrible. He was throwing balls around. He stunk. I've never been
so bad. It was so bad.
So bad.
I still do like the Falcons. Just kind of talking about teams that like the way I would bet them, because I don't think that them to make the playoffs is plus 116. That's not it for me. But the fact that them to win the division is plus 220, it's like there's not gonna be 2 playoff teams from that division.
Right.
So if you think they're gonna win the division, you're gonna make the playoffs. Just take them to win the division. They're not like
the NFC's so bad you never know, and who knows, a wild card get it 98. I know what you mean though.
The NFC's so bad, like literally, it could be anything. Bad conferences generally produce crazy outcomes.
And then the AFC's loaded. There's going to be 2 or 3 really like legitimate teams that would be like a 4 seed in the NFC that just aren't going to make it. Like you just go through the AFC teams, they can't all make it.
The NFC is so funny because it's like the biggest power drop of all time. There's like it's like 2 teams, and then there's like garbage. Like it's so funny.
And it's generally always like that. Like it's funny.
Are you guys not believers in San Francisco, or you are and you're not believers in the Cowboys?
It's a really good roster. I mean, San Fran's a really good roster. It's hard to back them as like a 12-win team when you don't know about the quarterback. I mean, Purdy was good in limited sample, but he's coming off an injury.
So 10.5 is their
Sam
win.
Darnold's the backup and Trey Lance is third string. Like it's I don't know why they didn't trade Trey Lance before the draft. Like they should have got rid of him.
I don't think anybody wants him.
Yeah, I don't think anybody can't throw it.
They gave up so much draft capital.
They gave up so much. That was such a good draft too. They could have gotten so many different guys. I mean, they could have gotten Micah Parsons. They
could have been freaking stacked.
That draft was stacked. Absolutely stacked.
Yeah. And then Josh was mentioning like to kind of talk about the make the playoffs market a little bit, because I know that was on our docket, but with the Falcons. This is like kind of another thing like yesterday, it's almost like a will bet. Does anyone have any interest in plus 110 for the Jets to not make the playoffs?
I think the Jets are going to be good.
Jets
I think they are too.
I actually have Jets. I have Jets to make the playoffs minus 135.
Yeah, I only bring it up because we just talk about all these teams in that conference that was what I was looking at.
Yeah, but the problem with the Jets, I was going to talk about them. Jets finished 7-10 last year, right? They had a PFF defensive grade of 85.3, which was only second behind the Eagles at 85.8, fifth in defensive DVOA. So if you want to take efficiency and use that instead of PFF's mystery ratings that they made up, and the 2 most difficult teams that they play this season, they get both of them at home, the Chiefs and the Eagles. I think they got a pretty good break with their schedule. Like you don't want to play the Chiefs and the Eagles, but at least you get both of them at home. I just think they're going to be a good team because they're so good defensively.
Yep.
All they need is serviceable.
And they had that game in Denver where they lost Vera Tucker and they lost Hall, who was absolutely cooking. And they lost both of them when Eric came out of the season. They were still 7-4. Remember, Barrios dropped the ball in the end zone, would have made them 8-4 in Minnesota. They probably had the worst quarterback play in the entire league. Even if Rodgers is like the 12th best quarterback, man, there's a lot of talent. You worry about the offensive line because there's a lot like Becton and then Dwayne Brown. Left tackle, that's definitely a concern, especially with an older quarterback. And that hit can derail. One other thing to mention, just in general, AFC teams, remember, there's 17 games now. AFC gets 9 home, 8 on the road. And obviously the inverse for the NFC. So the NFC is playing 9 road games, 8 at home. And one of the Jets' road games is at the Giants, which is the same stadium. So they really have 9 home games, 7 road games, 1 neutral. So that is a little hidden thing when you're talking about little fractions of wins and sort of like on the margins. Jets have a favorable schedule there, and it hurts the Giants because they lose a home game that's really not a home game.
Yeah. So the
reason Will said
that.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, I just before we leave off this, I wanted to bring it up because the reason I brought it up was because they're plus 110 and the Dolphins are minus 110. So I was just saying, like, if you guys believe that the Jets are that good, do you think there's value in the Dolphins to miss the playoffs?
With Tua getting hurt?
I love the roster, man.
They're so stacked.
Yeah, they are. I don't know. I've looked a lot more at the Bills and Jets and Pats so far because I wrote 2 separate things about the Bills and the Pats, but like all these teams have really, really tough schedules this year for sure. I mean, playing the NFC East and the AFC West is not going to be fun.
It's tough,
right? Yeah, like that was kind of cruel, but I mean, either way for the Dolphins, like I haven't looked at them closely enough to see how they compare to those 3 teams. I was thinking about Jets to win the division at plus 270 on DraftKings, a little bit better than FanDuel. That would be where I'd play. But do you think
Miami
Jets
to win the division?
Yeah. How do you like cap Miami within that?
I don't know. It's tough. I think Miami's got a good roster, but I don't think they have what it takes to win the division. Like, I don't know.
Can you win a division with half the season for Mike White? You can't factor Tua in for 17 games. Tua's going to miss a lot of games.
Tua hasn't played an entire season of football his entire career, starting in college to NFL. Like, why do we think it's going to start now?
Yep. Yeah. Once you get older and injured, like the injuries start to add up. You don't get less injured, like your hip,
like your neurological problems. Like that's scary.
That offensive line too. It's not a good offensive line.
Yep.
Not a good offensive line. What was Eli saying in the chat? Eli texted us, read the chat. I don't have the chat in front of me.
He was just saying some stupid stuff
about the Colts. He was talking about the Colts.
Colts, I mean, Colts have that's a good roster. Remember, they were favored to win that division last year, and Ryan was just shot. I think they had their over-under was 9 last year, so it's hard to bet like under 6.5. And you're going to get, if it is Richardson, you can't have a bigger gap in athleticism between one quarterback to the next. I don't know what to expect out of Richardson. Just in general, I like to fade rookie quarterbacks. I feel like, and I think the data backs it up. If you just fade the rookie quarterbacks, you usually do pretty well. I do think Carolina has the roster to be pretty good right away. I don't know. This is fun though. I'm excited. I think it's like 58 days, 57 days till college football starts, a month or so until the preseason starts. So not that far away.
Yeah, not at all. If we have room in this show later, I want to give my best bet too. So
yeah, go ahead.
We're going. Yesterday's best bet was boring. It cashed in the first 20 minutes. I'm sorry about that. I know you guys like to sweat it out until the 98th minute. I'm going to Iceland today. It's 2 teams that are very difficult to pronounce, but it gives you more reason to go check my channel. I'm going to pronounce it wrong. It's Freylik versus Vikingur. I know how to pronounce that. So just type in Vikingur on whatever betting app you have. Both teams to score and over 2.5 goals. Vikingur is easily the best scoring team in the entire Icelandic league. They score goals at will, but they're going against a team who haven't been shut out at home all season. The total for this is set high too. It's set at 3.5, which means we see goals. And if the books are expecting goals, you're not thinking they're going to expect the road team to score all 4 of them. So that's both teams to score and over 2.5. It's on my Twitter and in my channel on Goldboys Discord chat.
I hate fading Freylik.
They're good,
especially on Thursdays.
I understood like 3 of the words you said.
Yeah, I don't think those are even real teams. But
just you should see how they I like to do the whole team name so I could so people can just copy and paste it and put it in. It's like there are 25 letters for each team.
That's ridiculous.
It's wild.
Sounds like
We
a lot
sound
of
like
work.
snobby Americans, uneducated, uncultured swine.
Yeah,
uncultured
right. We are so uncultured.
Before we go though, Brad, anyone we should be betting in golf? I know it's a birdie fest out there. Anyone you'd recommend to bet on?
Anyone to bet in right now? Man, it's tough. Let me see what the odds are. Give me 30
Who's
seconds.
winning?
There's a 3-way tie at the top. Man, listen, I would say I'm probably
just
gonna
for context, Morikawa is the short shot plus 750. Fowler is 11-1.
I can't
Aaron
trust
Rice, 12-1. I
Morikawa
thought
that
about betting
long.
Aaron Rice first round leader. If he's first round leader right now, I'm gonna be so pissed.
He's tied 3-way tie. I would probably bet on JT at 16-1. If you guys want a little bit more value, I'd probably bet Cam Davis 40-1. Cam Davis is one of those golfers though who's gonna probably piss you off 90% of the round, but he's a big bomber. He's won this tournament before. He's finished T16 another year. I think this is a good bounce box spot for him.
Quest is leading. Peter Quest with a K.
Oh, did he end up getting to 8 under?
Yeah, never heard of him.
I've only seen one person, and I'm going to give this guy a shout out, Skyhook DFS, who even mentioned him this week. Skyhook DFS picked him this week. So congrats.
On that note, I think we'll be back tomorrow, 1:00 Eastern. Good luck with all your plays. Thank you to Brian, Brad, Josh, Pickett Sports, Sleeper Picks. Of course, check them out. Until then, good luck with all your plays. We'll see you tomorrow.